Alright, welcome back to another tutorial in Maya. Today, let's make some fire. We are going to play with fire. So here's what I've got going on. Basically just two objects colliding in space. One is on fire to begin with, and it hits this object, and then it basically bursts into flames. So this is something I always wanted to do with Maya when I first got it, and I realized that I didn't really quite know what I was doing. So anyway, this should speed you along in learning about fire. This is really cool. So let's do a scene breakdown. Got a couple of spheres right here. I attached a fractal texture to them and then just assigned some fire. It's basically pretty simple. So I'm going to take you through the process and we're going to do something. I'm going to do a scene breakdown here and move that out of the way. And here you can see where this is the representation in the viewport of what your fire is going to look like. So go ahead and just look at that for a second. You'll notice that we have some various properties for this fire I have selected right now. If I were to choose this one over here, I now have some basic things to work with over here. So something just to keep in mind. Let's start from scratch. Let's see what this looks like. I'm going to play this animation. You can see there, this comes cruising in there, and then that bursts into flames, and they go their own way out in outer space. Okay, so let's look at that one more time. Got one of these coming in here. I've basically used active and passive keys to keyframe this reaction. So watch how we do that. First of all, I'm just going to do a file. I think I want to save this scene. I'll just save this as Fire1 or something like that. I'll go ahead and save that. Alright, and now let's open up a new scene. Let's go to new scene, and I'm going to just get on with the new scene. Okay, so let's do something. Let's just create a quick Polygon Sphere. I'm going to click on the sphere, and there we go. Let's go into shaded mode so we can see it, and I'm going to come over here and zero it out. So I'll just push 0, click in there, 0, click on Z, 0. So now it's in the center of the scene. That's cool. And let's just do this. Let's create another little sphere. Let's go to Polygon Sphere and let's make a tiny one there. And let's move it up and into outer space. So I'm going to click on that and we'll just move it out, get it out there. Alright, and maybe a little more. Let's put it over here a little more extreme. Okay, so now let's do this. Let's set our timeline to about 200 frames because it's going to go pretty quick. We'll leave it at 200. And now let's come up here and get our hypershade, and let me bring that over here. Let's create our fractal really quick. I'm going to come up here. Let's do a new Lambert. Okay, we're going to take that Lambert and let's come down here. Let's get our fractal, and I'll get the 2D fractal right there. And now you can see where I've got my nodes here. And let's give us a bump. So let's take it and make it into a bump 2D. Alright, so there's my bump 2D. So here's what we want to do real quick. I want to middle mouse the fractal right there and drop it on top of that bump 2D node and just connect it at its default. And now we're going to take that bump 2D, we're going to drop it onto our Lambert 2, and this time we're going to come down here and put it on the bump map, and there it is. Okay, so that's about all we need for the moment. And now what I want to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead and connect that. So I'm going to go right click, come down to existing material, and we'll go to Lambert 2. And you might want to make sure your textures are turned on if you want to see them. And of course you don't have to do this, but you know, I just did give it a little more character. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing to this one. I'm going to go to Lambert 2 right here, connect that. Alright, now we're getting there. So let's do something. Let's take this right here and just sort of make it crash into this object. We're basically going to keyframe it up into the point when we want the reaction to take place. So first we'll just set a couple of keyframes. Take a look at your sphere right here and highlight these first three. Shift click, got all three of those. Make sure you're at frame number 1 in the animation and hit S on the keyboard, and now we've set a keyframe for that. So now we're ready to move it and sort of position it down here to hit this at some point. So I'm going to bring it down and we'll just sort of bring it in and bring it over, maybe zoom in a little. All right, and we want to get this so that it's just about coming in and touching the surface. You can see where that's touching the surface there. That's what we want. We'll bring it in from behind, and let's zoom in a little bit, and let's just say we want it right about there. It's important not to make these things touch to begin with, because we want a separation between our objects, so then we're going to tell Maya to take over the animation at some point. So I'm going to put it right about there. Alright, and make sure that all three of these are highlighted now. And oh no, we made the first mistake. I already set a keyframe, so I didn't move my time slider ahead, so I'm going to have to do that over. That's going to happen to you a lot in Maya. You just forget to do something, and I don't want to restart this tutorial, so I'm going to bring this up to 50, and we're going to scroll out here, see where our object is, maybe go back into the home view to make things a little easier. And now that I've set the timeline up to frame 50 and I've got these active, I'll make sure that I come up here and we'll set this keyframe correctly. So I'm going to bring it over there a little bit and bring it over there, and let's do the same method. Let's just see where it starts to interact with the surface of that other sphere. Bring that down, bring that over, and it's sort of a trial and error process. I can see now where I'm gonna probably, no, we'll go way down. All right, there it is. So we want to sort of maybe, let's bring it in from the back side a little bit. So we'll just sort of do that. And remember, we don't want it touching, so I'm gonna just put it right about there for now. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna come down here, make sure you're set at your timeline there, and hit S on the keyboard, and that'll set a keyframe correctly. Okay, so let's zoom out, make sure our animation's going right. Alright, so that's exactly what we want. Now, here's what we have to do. We're going to take both of these objects and make them into active colliders because we want them to interact with each other. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that one, and I'll go ahead and shift click on that one. And let's come up into our rigid bodies. Make sure you're in your dynamics menu set. Come to your rigid bodies, and we're going to basically set, we're going to create active rigid bodies for these two objects. Okay, so now they're both active. And now what we want to do is we also want to assign those some gravity, so they have some sort of field to interact with. And we put gravity on there. Great. Now if I play the beginning of the animation, you'll notice both balls dropping through space. That's exactly what we want. There it is. Okay, so now that that's happening, let's look at both of these objects. We want the gravity to take effect on these objects only when we want it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set some passive keyframes here. I'll go ahead and click on this object, and I want to come up in here and set a passive key. Alright, now that sets a passive key for this rigid body, which means if I play the animation from the beginning, it's not going to fall, but the other one is. Okay, so also on this one up here, we want to do the same thing. I'm going to come in here and set a passive keyframe. Alright, and now you'll notice that if I hit play, it'll come in, it'll do its thing, and it'll stop. Okay, well that's cool. So let's find out when we want to put our active keyframes in here. So I'll zoom ahead here, and we'll find just about the frame where it hits the other sphere, which is right about there. I'll back up one right here, and in this case I want it to become active at this point, so I'm just going to set an active keyframe. I'm going to click on this one too as well because I want it to become active at the same time. So I'll come down here and set active keyframe. Alright, now go back here, and as you see, we'll play the animation from the beginning. That comes in, and now we have our interaction. Okay, so that's basically a passive active body animation. That's great. Now let's take a look at a couple of things. Let's take the objects and let's assign the fire to them. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this main sphere, and you want to make sure you get your dynamics tab, or you can go into your dynamics, but usually under your dynamics tab you're going to see a little thing that says fire like that, and you'll notice down here you'll see fire. So it says create fire effect. Great, I'm just going to click on that, and now I have a fire effect that's already assigned to that. So let's take a spin forward here, And as you can see, it's on fire. All right, now let's take a quick render. All right, I'm gonna bring this render over here. Now, as you can see, I'm set up in Mental Ray. You may want to be in, you know, some other in the Maya software. You can fine-tune both, and there's a lot of ways to fine-tune it. So this is the default setting. As you can see, that fire is pretty hot. And we're going to go over various ways to adjust this in the next tutorial. We're going to fine-tune this fire next, but right now we're just looking at our simulation. So that looks pretty cool. So I'll just leave it like that for the moment. That's default. Okay, so let's move that out. And now let's go back to the beginning of the animation, and let's click on this one out here now and assign it fire as well. So I'll go ahead and click on that, and now when I play the animation, you should see a couple of different things happening here. You see a trail coming out. This is just an indication of your fire tail, and as you can see, because I keyframed it to come from outer space and at an angle and down here, and we've assigned gravity to it and everything, it sort of takes on the shape of its trajectory, so to speak. So that's really cool. So if I were to do a quick render on that, let's see what they both look like bursting out into flames. Oh, wrong one. Let's do a quick render, and that's kind of what we have at the moment, and we're going to fine-tune this. Okay, so here we go. Now, that's the animation. Great, so we know the fire is on, but we don't want this to start on fire until this object hits it. So let's look at that real quick. I'm gonna look at this. Let's click on this one, and actually go ahead and hit play, and you can select this fire sort of just like that. And if you come up into your tabs, you'll notice that this is the particle cloud 2. And it has an emitter and a shape and a turbulence field attached. But for right now, what we're interested in here in this particle cloud 2 is, let me click on over here, and we'll get our attributes in the channel box. And we have a start frame, okay? Right now, our current time is at 28. So let's move the timeline forward a little bit and see when that hits. Okay, so it hits at about frame 49 or so. So let's move it ahead just a couple of frames, and I'm going to turn it on a start frame of 52. So I'll click in that box, put 52 in there, and now let's rewind the beginning of the animation and play. Okay, you see that's coming in, and boom, now it starts to be on fire after it hits. Okay, so I haven't fine-tuned anything other than just turning on and off the fire. So that's kind of where we're at. So now we can take a look. We've got that. I'm going to pause that right there, and let's take a quick render, see what that looks like. All right, so you can see where just by default that's kind of where we're starting. And now let's make it explode. I'm going to click on play. Okay, and that was right after they hit, and I'll just sort of go a little bit more out there, and let's do another quick render. Okay, so now you can see that's bursting into flames pretty good, and we got some tails going off there. So there you go. That's the beginning of this tutorial. Now in the next one, we'll play around with some of these fine-tuning of the fire. There's a couple of controls you probably should know about, and I'll show those to you real quick. As long as I have this selected, I can come over under my tabs, and now we've got some properties here that we can play with. So stay tuned for part number 2, and we will fine-tune this fire, and you'll be quickly up and running with making things burn. Okay, and remember, usually when there's fire, there's going to be smoke, and so this is just sort of the beginning of a simulation, and there's a lot of fine-tuning that you can do. We can play with the ramps and all sorts of other stuff, and so anyway, we'll do that in the next tutorial. So there you go. There it is. We made some fire, and we're going to play with it now some more. Part 2. Stay tuned, and remember, read a book and learn something. And as always, have a great day, and thanks for watching.